Evening Shiur is sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Yaakov Goldson, Le'ilei Nishmas Binyamin Ben Yaakov. Okay, now, before we actually do tonight's Shiur, I want to do something very quickly, the Mabit, because I want this, instead of a public service announcement, I want this to be very clear in terms of what Kavanah is, what Kavanah isn't, and how you Yotze or not Yotze Shmon Esrei. And then the Indian of machshava is to cling, your brain to cling with what comes out of your mouth. If you're mentioning, if you're masada, if you're organizing the Shevach Hashem, Yachshov osam shvachim, think of those shvachim, Shemoti Usasav, that are coming out of your mouth, Shem Na'usam Lo, they are appropriate to him, V'mushubach Bahem, V'lo Acheinim, and he alone, Hashem alone, is praised with them and no one else. So when it comes to asking a request, Hashem is able to do anything, and watches over all particulars of people, to pay a man back according to his ways, and according to his actions, which doesn't happen with anybody else. Okay. And through this kavanah, he'll be watched and he'll be affected by Hashem in this world and the world to come. Because with kavanah and ratzon alone, Hashem created the world. Hashem didn't need dibur. Ki asara mamaras nemru ala ratzon v'chefetz mitoyis barach. Mabit says big chiddush. Hashem did not say the words vayihi or. It was Hashem's ratzon and chefetz. As we see the expression of Amira with the heart of Esther. Vayomer Haman belibo. Haman said in his heart. He didn't speak out on his lips. He said in his heart. And the Kamish called Omnivra b'chefetz v'ratzon. Since the entire world was created not with dibur, but just b'chefetz, with Hashem's will and desire. Kamokein shemei tefillas burav kishi b'kavanah. So to Hashem hears the tefillah of His creations when they are b'kavanah. L'tashem ha'kavanah ka'ogem built the dibur. However, the kavanah of human beings is not complete without the dibur. Therefore, we say, Gemara Bracha says, "Kafam beis here love kedibur dami." Here is not kedibur because here it adds a dimension to it. All right, so far nice chiddush that number one, Hashem didn't really create the world with dibur. Hashem created it with ratzon and chefetz, and therefore what Hashem wants in tefillah is liba boy. Hashem wants the heart because that's what Hashem is listening for. Okay. But he says it's better to speak out your words, and that's why Chazal, and so really Chazal instituted tefillah b'peh, because it adds to it. It makes it adds to the kavanah. It makes it better, etc. And that's why here is lav kedibur dami. But he says there's another advantage to dibur. Watch this. V'gam ken yola dibur amiyar. It's a built-in mevina mashomrim. The dibur also helps amaratim who don't know what they're saying. If it weren't for dibur, they would not be yotzi tefillah at all. Even those understand, they can't have kavanah all the time. And so is therefore we say at the end of the middle brachas, Shema kolenu Hashem. Hashem, hear our voice. Shema kolenu Hashem alkeinu. Ki gam shelo kivnu karoi, because even when we didn't have kavanah karoi, b'tefillah seinu atfillah, she yishma kol tefillah seinu. Listen to the diak. Shema kolenu Hashem alkeinu chus v'rachem aleinu v'kaba barachamim. Right, meaning we're asking Hashem to accept the kol tefillah seinu, even if we don't have kavanah. Gam ki akol hu bli kavanah, even though kol is kavanah. V'chasim anu omrim, and the chasim will say kata shmei tefillas kol peh kolom. What does it mean? Tefillah she min asafa l'chutz. Even the tefillahs that are just from the lips out, no kavanah, sheina b'kavanah, ata shamea. You hear al yidei rachamecha rabim, because your great mercy, kevin shem eino yodim l'chavim, but since they don't know how to have kavanah. Gentlemen, what is the Mabit saying?
You're saying that it doesn't matter if you have kavanah or not, as long as the words come out of your mouth, that you're kind of, you're davened.
Your tefillah works. Now, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter at all, because it's certainly, with kavanah, it's much more effective. But if an Amaritz doesn't know what the words mean, we're talking Amaritz that doesn't know what the word means, but he says the words, it has an effect. And that's good for why we say in Shema Kolenu. Hashem Shema Kolenu. We didn't say Shema Kavanah Seinu. Hashem listened to our call, even if it didn't have kavanah, even if we didn't have, please accept it. So What he's saying is exactly what Mart's saying, that the words themselves are effective. The words itself are powerful, even if I speak. Now, this is talking Amaretz means he doesn't know what any of the words means. Not avos, not modim, not nothing. He doesn't know what the words means. He blah, 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 blah. If you pronounce the words properly, it has an effect. It has an impact. He had no kavanah. Okay. Had he had more kavanah, it would have been more effective. Would have changed the upper world to a greater extent. But just saying the words alone has an impact and is very powerful. So this is a public service announcement. Don't make any mistake. I don't want people being miyayish and say, I can't have kavanah. So again, we have to work on kavanah, and kavanah is very important. And certainly in avos, we try to have kavanah there, especially because you're not yotzei shmon esrei. Now, it doesn't mean your tefillah is not a tefillah, but you're not yotzei shmon esrei. So you want to be yotzei shmon esrei, you have to have kavanah in avos. But even if you're not yotzei shmon esrei, the Mabit is telling us that your tefillah is powerful, has an impact, etc., etc., etc. Okay. Okay, we're ready to get to work, gentlemen? Oh my goodness, 10 to 10. We're first starting Shiur tonight. Wow, what time are we ending? We're under 12. Okay, no, I don't. We'll figure this out. All right, I was supposed to say a very quick recap. I don't know, it doesn't say it, but okay. Let's see how far we get. So again, the Rambam said there are chamisha dvarim makim tefillah. One is kavanah salev, and the Rambam then explains to us: kol tefillah she'ein b'kavanah ain't a tefillah. Any kavanah, any tefillah that's not with kavanah is not a tefillah. Right? And that's the principle we learn from Perek Daled. Then we have a seemingly contradiction, because in Perek Yud, this is still Perek Daled. What is kavanah? Kavanah is like you're standing in front of the Shechina. Okay, good. So this is all Perek Daled. We know that kavanah is ma'akev, and kol tefillah she'ein b'kavanah is nothing. Okay, good. Says the Rambam Perek Yud, if you daven and you have kavanah, go daven again. As long as you had kavanah first bracha, shuv and tzarech. So this seems to be an overt contradiction. Perek Daled, he's saying any tefillah not with kavanah is worthless, right? Ain't a tefillah, it's not a tefillah. Yet in Perek Yud, he says, as long as you have kavanah in the first bracha of avos, you're good. This is what we call a contradiction. It's either ain't a tefillah, or well, that's the wrong slide, but it's supposed to say, as long as you have kavanah in the first bracha, you yotzei. That's what it should say. What does it say there? It says it. Yeah, this is what this should say. Right. Meaning in Perek Daled, it says ain't kol tefillah shem kavanah ain't tefillah. And in Perek Yud, it says shuv and tzarech. As long as you have kavanah in the first one, shuv and tzarech. Okay, good. That's the contradiction, right? And to make it even worse, in Perek Daled says if you find your das mishubetzes and your tzol tumult, it's forbidden to daven. All right. So that's our contradiction. Very nice. Comes along Rav Chaim Halevi on the Rambam, and he tells us a teretz to the contradiction. What's a teretz to the contradiction? Two types of kavanah. And there's kavanah for perish advarim, meaning what the words mean, and kavanah number two is knowing that you're talking to God. If you don't see yourself as speaking to Hashem, and it's not tefillah. And the Rav Chaim is very clear. When the Rambam said kol tefillah she'ein b'kavanah ain't tefillah, he was talking about this kind of kavanah. You don't see yourself standing in front of Hashem. If you don't see yourself standing in front of Hashem, it's not a ma'aseh tefillah. And tefillah by definition is communicating with God. If you're not communicating with God, you think about your business, whatever it may be, you're not davening. It's any word that you said that way is misasek. It's like you didn't say it at all. It's not tefillah. It's not the definition of tefillah. That's why in Perek Daled we said any tefillah without kavanah is not tefillah. I think we're talking about the kavanah of not knowing you're speaking to Hashem. However, when we said in Perek Yud that as long as you had avos, we're talking about din mesuyim rak b'tefillah levad. That's the kavanah perish advarim, meaning Baruch, blessed Ata Hashem. Meaning perish advarim. That's a requirement only by tefillah, and that you only have to have in avos. As long as you have kavanah in avos, you're good to go. Why? Because avos is the shevach, and the top of the shevach is the avos. So therefore, you have to see it. And even more, to make it even more clear, Rav Chaim told us there are two problems if you don't see yourself standing in front of Hashem. And number one is misasek, meaning it's like not a ma'aseh tefillah, because tefillah means talking to God. Number two, mitzvah shrichus kavanah, and you don't have kavanah. If you're thinking about the stocks, you're not thinking about mitzvah, being yotze to the mitzvah. So the two problems with that thing. Okay, so far so good, right? Now, and again, just understand, to the Devar Ma'akiv B'chol Tefillah Kamo B'chol HaMitzvahs. Both of these, both Mesaseg and Mitzvah Shricha Kavanah, are Ma'akiv in any tefillah, just like in any mitzvah. Okay? Good. Now, and then we had, now, let me just jump over here a minute. Now, the problem with the simple reading. We said you cannot read, no responsible reader can read Rav Chaim the simple way. Why? Because what Rav Chaim is saying, if you don't see yourself standing in front of Hashem, and tefillah is not Kavanah, then nobody is going to be Yotzei Shemona Esrei. And we know Tosa said, no person can have Kavanah from beginning to end perfectly. The Ramah says, if you daven the first time, all of us without Kavanah, the Mechaber says, go back and do it again. The Ramah says, no, it's Karav, you're not going to do it a second time with Kavanah. Bir Allah quotes a Chai Adam saying, you won't even find 1 in 1,000 that's Kavanah from beginning Shemona Esrei straight through to the end. So what that means not 1 in 1,000 is going to be Yotzei Shemona Esrei, because Rav Chaim taught us the Yesod that any word of Shemona Esrei that you don't know you're talking to God is not spoken. So any bracha is ma'akev. Any bracha, if you said, instead of 19 brachas, you said 17 brachas, you're not Yotzei Shemona Esrei. There's a piece missing. So according to Rav Chaim, a simple reading of Rav Chaim, no 1 in 1,000 Jews will be Yotzei Shemona Esrei. Very unlikely to be. In addition to which, we asked what I call a very simple question, and that is, if Rav Chaim means in Perek Yud that as long as you have kavanah the first bracha, you don't have to go back, and mean what? Which means the rest of the time, the rest of Shemona Esrei, you didn't pay attention. If you didn't pay attention, didn't Rav Chaim say it's like you didn't say those words? So how could you possibly be Yotzei Shemona Esrei? You said brachos, right? That you said with kavanah, and everything else you didn't say with kavanah. So it's like you didn't say those words. So they have 18 of your 19 brachas are not said. How could that be? Right? Good. Now it happens to be the Chazon Ish asked that very same question, and what the Chazon Ish says, we're not going to read it now inside, but the Chazon Ish says basically, he says the Olam Yesh Yediyah Kashu Tila Fanav Yisbarach. A person has a weak knowledge that in front of Hashem. Is not so awoken. Meaning, what is he saying? How do we understand this, gentlemen? Someone tell me over quickly. How do we understand this?
Just the peripheral thing?
You got it. This is the peripheral thing. And peripheral knowledge, meaning, let's start with the following. How much do we experience Hashem? Moshe Rabbeinu experienced Hashem, Mamish, Spaklar Me'irya. I'm speaking to Hashem directly. And the Nevi'im experience it not quite as clearly. Tanaim a little bit less clear. Amoraim more clouded. Rishonim more clouded. Achronim still saw Hashem, but it was kind of clouded. So here's us. Sometimes I think I see Hashem, and sometimes I don't see Hashem. We're like but we always have some knowledge what I'm doing. Even if I'm spaced out, I have some knowledge. Haraya. This is the mashal from the driving, right? I can drive, daydream totally, and yet know to change lanes, know not to hit a car, know to stop at a red light. I can be completely daydreaming and yet manage to get where I'm supposed to go. How does that? Because there's conscious thought and it's peripheral consciousness. And peripheral consciousness means things that are sort of like in the back of my mind, I'm slightly aware of. I'm not focused on them, but a part of my brain sort of pays attention to them. By the way, if you have ADD, you may note that you're able to listen to Shiur better in the car than you are if you're sitting in an office or sitting in a classroom. Would anybody like to know why? I have a theory. I've not discussed it with any neuroscientists, but my theory is when you're driving, part of your brain is occupied by, the peripheral part of your brain is occupied by lane changes, which this guy's coming, this guy not. So part of your brain is occupied. It's easier for you, therefore, to keep your conscious mind where it is, because normally what happens is your peripheral brain goes haywire and goes to this, that, you start spacing out. So it pulls your conscious mind away. Here, your peripheral mind is concentrating, it's focused, it leaves your conscious mind able to focus directly. Whether I'm right or wrong doesn't matter, but this concept of peripheral consciousness is basically seems to be what the Chazon Ish says, you always have at least some knowledge. Okay. Now,
I mean, what's the Chazon Ish talking about when he tries to Dre for the for Rav Chaim? What's he saying there? I couldn't understand it. So that Shasha Omer L'Spal B'Chol Tefillah Stomach L'Shma. He says
Yeah.
that before he says his shot. That doesn't mean this. It sounds like the same thing, no?
That's what I think he means over. That's what I think he's saying.
Oh, really? I
That-
thought he was explaining Rav Chaim that way, and then he says "V'ulei divrei Gaon," and then he goes on to say this part. I thought he was saying two different things.
No, he is saying two different things. The change is in whether there are two types of kavanas or not.
How's he trying to explain Rav Chaim?
I think the way we are, the same way. See, the question, according to the way we said the Rav Chaim, there are two kavanas. There's kavanah knowing talking to Hashem and Perish Milim. But make no mistake, the simple reading of Rav Chaim is that I have to think consciously I'm talking to Hashem, and anytime I space out, that's wrong. You have to be peripherally aware that you're talking to Hashem. That's one type of kavanah. Other type of kavanah is Perish Milim. Now, even if you don't have Perish Milim, you could well have peripheral knowledge you're talking to Hashem, and also the opposite. You know what I'm saying?
So now what's the split with his shot? How is his shot different?
He says the whole thing's stupid. There's no such thing as kavanah to stand in front of Hashem. It's all wrong. There's only one shot, only one kavanah.
The peripheral is the only kind of kavanah?
No, the only thing that matters is Perish Milim.
Oh.
There's no such thing as two kavanas. This whole Yesod of Chaim, Misasek, like you didn't say the words. It says the Chazon Ish. I don't know what you're talking. You're making that up. It's not true. Not true. You're making that up. It's not what the Rambam's saying. Not what he means. And now we don't have time for tonight, but I wanted to explain to you. When we come back Tuesday, we're going to fight this out. What the Chazon Ish is really saying and how we fit it in. But I'm afraid I'm going to chicken out for now. I'm pulling my punches for now. Let's believe it or not, gentlemen, let's stop here. I know we didn't do much in terms of the Sugyah, but I think it's a good place to start. And Tuesday night, Mr. Hashem, we're going to patch this together. We're going to explain how the Chazon Ish learns of Chaim, the other way to learn of Chaim, and hopefully we're going to see why Rav Chaim feels the Rambam can't mean like the Chazon Ish. Get into that machlokas. We'll call it scenes of coming attraction. All right.
So does Rebbe want to try to say this shot within Rav Chaim, not Lulu Rav Chaim?
Yes, meaning I think how am I going to say this politely? I'm going to say I'm arguing with the Chazon Ish. But yes, I am. Meaning what the Chazon Ish does, see, I can only say those words because what the Chazon Ish did the same thing. He calls Rav Chaim the Gaon and then says, Lulu, get rid of him. Let me take the right shot in the Rambam. But I'm going to explain to you why Rav Chaim had a tremendous pressure to say what he says. See, Rav Chaim's chiddush of two kavanah is not just stam in the Welt. He reads the Rambam in a very particular way, and because of that, it's muchrach that's what the Rambam's saying, and because of that, he doesn't learn like the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish says there's only one kavanah, and Lulei the Gaon, let me tell you the right shot, just one kavanah, and it's clear that Rav Chaim learns two kavanas, and there's a reason why he does that, because if he reads the Rambam in a particular way, you have to say two kavanas, and that's what we're gonna get into and understand a little bit better. Mitzvah Hashem.
Do we need the Kilos Yaakov, or was that just a way to lead to the Mabit?
The Kilos Yaakov is very important. We're not going to need it structurally. I'm not sure. We will need it eventually. Not for Tuesday night. Eventually, we'll need it. With the Kilos, the Kilos Yaakov is good. It's very important. He was a goyin. All right. So I apologize. We didn't get as much done, but we learned a lot of Musar, which is appropriate, I guess, for Erev Yom Kippur. All right, gentlemen.
Have an easy fast.
Okay, have an easy fast, a good Geben Shiur. Mitzvah on Tuesday night. We'll get back. We'll put things back in order. All right.
Thank you. Good luck with your Shabbos Shuvah Drosha.
Oh yeah, Mitzvah Hashem. You better go figure out what I'm saying, right? Okay.
I don't think so. I think you figured it
out. All right. Okay,
gentlemen. Won't be the same in Rochester without you.
I miss it. It's been 35 years, 38 years. I don't know exactly how many, but a lot. Yeah. All right. Nunu. Okay, gentlemen. Good Geben Shiur. Tov.